Are the Democrats destined to become a permanent minority party? Well, that's exactly what Democrat strategists are warning. In this video, we're going to take a look at a stunning admission a few days back by a major Democrat figure. We're going to see how the demographic base of the Democratic Party is imploding as we speak. And stick with me to the very end of this video when I'll reveal why some believe we could be witnessing nothing less than the total collapse of the Democrat Party itself. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Stevie with you. Great to be with you. As always, I'm your daily fake news antidote. Each and every day, I provide patriotic analysis to help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Before we get into things here, a huge thank you to everyone for your kind words about our new Change America initiative. Last week was a great display of patriots coming together, stand up for truth, and I couldn't be more proud. We started Change America as a way for everyday patriots to get involved in fighting for freedom with their spare change, supporting candidates, organizations, audits, and more. And as a thank you, my team and I are so thrilled to announce a special Turley Talks live virtual Christmas party on Monday, December 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'll be inviting some special guests, giving away gifts, sharing some special Christmas stories, and more. I so hope to see you there. So make sure to click on the link below, sign up for Change America today, and join me December 20th. Can't wait to see you there. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. Something happened a few days back that's causing panic within the Democratic ranks. Now, this is an underground panic because what happened is rather subtle. It took place within the realm of liberal academia, so it's a bit cloistered. But it's very, very profound, very, very significant. It's absolutely going to make your day. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the book published almost 20 years ago entitled The Emerging Democrat Majority. It was written by the political scientist Reed Teixeira, and its basic argument was rather simple. It doesn't matter how much power the Republicans are amassing in the present, because of demographic shifts, they're eventually going to be pummeled in the polls. And that's because the conservative white base of the Republican Party is shrinking, it's in decline, while the supposedly non-conservative, non-white base of the Democratic Party keeps growing. So eventually this demographic sea change will deliver an ever-growing, unstoppable liberal Democratic coalition, right? It's a very influential book on both the political left as well as the political right. You may recall back in 2013, the so-called autopsy report published by the Republican National Committee after Romney's humiliating 2012 loss. The report, if you can believe it, actually recommended that the GOP embrace amnesty for illegal immigrants and what the authors called inclusion, which was nothing less than basically ceding the culture to the political left. So this is the Republicanism of Liz Cheney and Paul Ryan, and ironically, Mitt Romney. In many respects, this understanding of the nation and its political interpretation of demographic changes goes back to this book, The Emerging Democrat Majority. Well, what happened a few days back was that it's causing absolute panic among Democrat academics is that this author, Reed Teixeira, he just published what in many respects is a retraction of that thesis. He published it on his Substack in an article entitled, get this, The Democrats' Hispanic Voter Problem. It's not as bad as you think. It's actually worse. It's a fascinating mea culpa that significantly walks back his earlier predictions that whites and non-whites could be so simplistically reified into opposing political categories. Political categories, as it turns out, that did not take post-secular religious values into consideration, which, of course, as we've been tracking on this channel for 5 years now, is currently changing everything all over the world. Now, if you don't know, what's basically happening right now is that Latinos are abandoning the Democratic Party in droves, okay? Now, in fact, to the shock of pollsters and pundits alike, most of whom are liberal, by the way, many of whom helped author that silly autopsy report for the Republicans back in 2013 that actually advocated for amnesty. They simply couldn't understand why Trump actually gained more minority voters in 2016 and 2020 than any of his Republican predecessors. but we can actually see a generational trajectory among Hispanics that's moving decisively towards the Republicans. Political demographer Eric Kaufman has shown that from the time Latino immigrants arrive into the United States, each successive generation becomes more likely, not less, to vote Republican. Third-generation Latinos are far more likely to vote Republican than those who just arrived. And these figures actually underscore or undercount the Hispanic Republican vote because we now have data that shows conclusively that Hispanics who intermarry with whites inordinately vote Republican. And so as Latinos become more and more assimilated into American society generationally, we're finding that they're voting more and more for the GOP. We talked about this in yesterday's video. The latest poll from the Wall Street Journal of Latino voters across the nation found that if the election were held today, astonishingly, 44% would vote for Biden, 43% would vote for Trump. That is an unprecedented 50-50 split that promises a political earthquake in the next cycle of elections. We've already seen it in Texas, where districts that are made up of 85% Latinos have begun to defect en masse and vote Republican. And of course, we saw the political ramifications this big time with Glenn Youngkin's win in Virginia, which included 55% of Hispanics voting for him, according to exit polls. But gang, it gets worse. Black men, particularly men, okay, have been trending Republican since 2008. Trump twice got the highest share of black male votes of any presidential candidate in decades. Steve Bannon is openly predicting that 50% of black men are going to be voting for a MAGA-based Patriot GOP by 2024, which he believes will secure a Republican majority for the next 100 years. That's a little fourth turning timetable for those of you familiar with the whole fourth turning cyclical theory. So can you see why the Democrats are starting to panic a bit here? This isn't what they were told was going to happen a couple of days back, is it? All of these non-white voters were supposed to be voting Democrat, and instead they're starting to vote overwhelmingly Republican. And again, we can see the writing on the wall with the upcoming midterms. The generic ballot polls keep coming in, and gang, they keep showing nothing less than an abject disaster for the Democrats. Oh, this is just too much fun. But first, gang, it is Christmas, and you're definitely going to want to check out our amazing merch store for gifts for the Patriots in your life. We've got the best designs in the world, like our Let's Go Brandon t-shirts, right? They're absolutely awesome. So make sure to click on that link below. Get your Patriot merch today. These designs are awesome. They're fun. They're punchy. They're perfect Christmas gift for the Patriots in your life. But gang, they are not going to stick around long. They're flying off the shelves. So don't wait. Click on that link below right now in the description below to both support me and spread Patriot hope. And let's make this the most patriotic Christmas ever. All right, look at the latest polls coming out for the upcoming midterms. They simply couldn't be more dire for the Democrats. The latest is from CNBC, which found that Republicans have a 10-point lead over the Democrats in the latest generic ballot poll, 44 to 34%. If we compare these generic ballots to the last time Republicans stomped the Democrats in the midterms back in 2010, 2014, 2022 promises to be an utter bloodbath. Gang, this is not right-wing wishful thinking, okay? Democrats are openly admitting this. Jay Campbell, who's a Democratic pollster, he helped conduct the latest CNBC poll, said it best, quote, "If the election were tomorrow, it would be an absolute unmitigated disaster for the Democrats." That's how Democrats are talking today, gang. And this is huge because Dick Morris is pointing out that these upcoming midterms had the potential basically wiping out the Democrats for the foreseeable future. They have the potential of rendering the Democrats a permanent minority party. What Morris notes here is that there are now 220 Democrats in Congress. About half of them, 100 of them or so, are black or Latino liberals. And what he notices is that we can more or less assume that these seats are pretty safe for the midterms. They're going to be able to weather the massive red wave that appears to be coming. So what that means, by definition, is that the vast majority of the political victims, the casualties in the coming GOP landslide, will be white Democratic congressmen. So there's about 120 white Democratic congressmen. We could be seeing that number basically cut in half. Now, if that's the case, what happens to the Democratic Party after the midterms? By definition, Well, again, according to Morris, the Democratic Party basically becomes, in his words, a far left liberal black party, a party that's predominantly African American and radically left wing. And with both Latinos and black men increasingly moving into the Republican Party, the Democratic Party would in effect be decimated. With a new coalition of whites, Latinos, and black men having largely abandoned the Democrats would, in Steve Bannon's terms, the Democrats would be a permanent minority party for the next 100 years. So, of course, we'll see how things play out here. But as the author of that book on the emerging Democrat majority has just admitted, it appears that things aren't as bad as Democrats think. They are far, far worse. Now, before you go, you will definitely want to check out my latest video on a new poll that shows that 60% of voters, you heard that, 60% of voters believe that Biden will be replaced, all as Kamala Harris implodes. It's going to absolutely make your day, so make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there. God bless.